Hey everybody, this is Josh Runquist here for the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel, here for another edition of Out Today and What I Missed. This week, it is for May 30th, 2025. We have another 20 albums to talk about, 10 that are out today. Well, one technically came out on Sunday, but I'm still counting it, and 10 that I missed along the way. So much to get into, 470 albums I will have covered in 2025 so far, so let's just get into it. First up, we have Death Rattle with The Moral Chokehold. A description you don't often hear is a modern groove metal band from New Hampshire, but that is exactly what you get with Death Rattle and their brand new third album. It's been a bit since their sophomore album, which came out all the way back 8 years ago in 2017. I hate writing that phrase, time is going by way too fast, but this band has taken its time and they've perfected their sound into what is easily their best work to date. With an excellent production style, the band has taken their songwriting and refined it to make the style of groove metal that is so much more than the sum of its parts. It's a grand mix of bands like Crowbar and Lamb of God, and especially a new twist for the band Gojira. The band has found their mix of never going too fast or too slow, and the majority of the album hits this nice sweet spot of mid-tempo stompers that is so headbang-inducing from start to finish. This is an aggressive album that hits the anger of the state of the world in a way that you can really only do in this kind of style to make it work. If you dig modern groove metal, aka basically what Gojira has perfected for this genre, this is what you need in 2025. Next, we have Graceless with Icons of Ruin. The fourth album from this Netherlands-based death doom band is exactly what is called for in 2025. It's the perfect flow of never going full-on death metal assault, nor hitting the extreme slows of what doom metal can accomplish. It's that punishing slower to mid-tempo stylings for fans of Bolt Thrower, Asphyx, and Hail of Bullets, and if you love that, you'll be foaming at the mouth over what you hear here. I would also say that this is a good pairing for the latest album from the band Sculpture, Land Creek, which I covered earlier this year. Man, that would be an incredible show to see. The production is very, very Bolt Thrower. It is raw, but it still feels quite punchy. The songwriting is very inspired and hits the niche of that death doom style expertly. If you love this style of death doom, look no further than Graceless. This is exactly how it should be done. Next up is Less DMV or Less Dimv, depending on your pronunciation, with Epitaph 2. Julien Loré of Lacrimas Profonde is back with his second solo album, and wow, this is one of the most emotionally gripping albums that you're going to hear in this style in 2025. Julien has this aura about him and knows how to hit you in ways that you just simply don't expect. While it is still very much in the gothic tinge of things, there's some more aggressive and hard-hitting stuff that almost gets in the black metal territory. There's some late 90s, early 2000s Finnish era goth sounds a la him, and especially Lacrimas Profonde, of course. And some songs are just Julien experimenting with his influences and finding a way to make every song as catchy, if not catchier, than the next. The production is just polished enough, but it still sounds real, and the overall vibe of the album just makes for an incredible listening experience. The album is connected to the previous Epitaph album, conceptually and lyrically, but rather than spilling the beans on what that's all about, you should just listen to both of them yourself and start to connect the dots. It's more fun that way. Especially when it comes to the more gothic-centric albums, this is easily one of the best so far in 2025, and I can't imagine what will top it. I've had this promo for so long, it almost feels like a 2024 album to me, but every time I put it on, it still feels so fresh and so inspired. Exactly the way an album should feel when you put it on. Seriously, whether you are a diehard fan or just finding out about him now, give Julien a chance here with his latest from Less DMV. Hauntingly gorgeous from beginning to end. Now we have Low Before the Breeze with A Hole Below the Home We Shared. The debut album from this Atlanta trio is a whirlwind of emotions, and it's punishing from start to finish. Whether it goes into a full-on assault of fast black metal, or it hits more of the screamo era that you hear in the mid-90s to the mid-2000s, or going full-on into Boris and Merzbow stylings of their more harsh noise, the band has crafted a sound that is uniquely their own. It also helps that Andrew Spahn lent his voice to a track off the latest album from the Callous Cowboys, I Don't Want to See You in Heaven, country song in reverse, doing some absolute fine work on that track, by the way. This is absolutely not an album for everyone, and will probably scare a lot of people off with this style of songwriting. While it's confined, you never truly know what's going to happen, even after several listens. The production goes from raw to blackened to almost overbearing at times, and the overall experience is definitely for a particular listener. But that's also part of the adventure. There are so many elements that I enjoy here, and with every listen, I just discover more and more. And that's what a great album should do. Considering this is just their debut album, I can't wait to see where they go next and what gets introduced into their musical palette. If you are feeling saucy and you want to give this absolute extreme musical endeavor a taste, check out Low Before the Breeze and see if they become your new musical obsession. Now we have Needless with Premonition. 3 albums into their inception since 2004 shows that quality will always matter more than quantity, and that's what you get with their latest offering, Premonition. This is a band that hits on so many different levels of progressive death metal, a band that can go in and get into so many different musical directions, yet still have this way of sounding catchy and memorable. No matter your love of metal, you will find something to love here. The production reminds me of that mid to late 2000s era, while still sounding just modern enough. The songwriting turns more and more into an earworm the more that you listen, and I can hear so much of genres like melodeath, progressive metal, as I do 2000s thrash and groove and so many other elements that creates a sound that fits this band like a glove. If you want a band that can show your love of metal through and through, check out Needless. They are a band that is more than worthy of your attention. Next up, we have Rivers of Nile with their self-titled album. The 5th album from this long-running Pennsylvania band is coming out strong with their first non-conceptual album. There is a lot to like about this one. You can hear every era of the band that they've done so far, while still forging a new path in the process. If you love Where Owls Know My Name, there's songs like that on here. If you dig the early day tech death stuff, kind of like of the Conscious Seed of Light or even Monarchy, you're going to hear that here as well. But the band is forging forward with a new lineup, most notably Andy Thomas of Black Crown Initiate taking over on some guitar duties and clean vocals, and Adam Briggs actually stepping up and doing the screams and growls, and of course doing his continuous bass and songwriting. That is no easy feat to accomplish. While the band is continuing to forge their own path, there is going to be a particular song or two that I'm not going to gel with. I'll just go ahead and say a song like American Death is just not my bag. And if you know anything about me, you know why. But after a major lineup change and coming off a colossal 4-album conceptual suite, it is going to be a pure challenge to know where to go next, and for the most part, Rivers got it right, and they're going in the right direction. This is what that mid-2020s Rivers is going to sound like, and I'm ever so curious to see where they go next. Till then, let the self-titled release show where they are now, and they're proving that they are still here to stay. Next, we have Svart Vinter with Isvind. The sophomore album from this Italian black metal band is heavily inspired by the 90s Scandinavian black metal scene, and it's really a refreshing change of pace. While the weather is getting warmer, at least in my side of the northern hemisphere, it may feel strange to hear an album that feels this cold, dissonant, and haunting, but Svart Vinter knows what they are doing, and they have put out such a devastating piece of black metal. I love that so many members of this band is also in the band Veil of Conspiracy, another band that I covered earlier this year who put out one of my favorite albums so far this year, are showing off so much more of their musical palettes in another band. The production is raw but enjoyable. The songwriting hits so close to home for bands like Immortal, Niflheim, and Dissection, while other atmospheric moments of the band really makes this album feel a bit more cooled off and relaxed. Though I imagine winter comes again, this is going to feel ice frickin' cold to listen to. If you want one of the darkest displays of Scandinavian inspired black metal in 2025, you need to give Svart Vinter your full attention. They make this genre their own, and I love what I'm hearing. Here we have True North with Either Way, The Sun's Exploding. The sophomore album from this LA band hits a scratch that I needed to itch for quite a while. Growing up in my formative years in the 2000s, I loved hearing bands that hit what I call that MTV2 hard rock, alternative rock, post-hardcore emo. Basically all the music that was on before Headbangers Ball on Saturday nights. While I have so much more of an appreciation for that style now than I did back then, I still really enjoyed what I heard 20 plus years ago. I enjoy it more now. Hearing a band like True North show off that appreciation for that style of music, while still making it accessible for the 2020s crowd and adding their own herbs and spices to the music, makes it insanely catchy for the modern crowd as well, was such a smart thing to accomplish. I can hear as much Story of the Year and Taking Back Sunday and Thursday as I do bands like I Prevail, Beartooth, and if there is catchier moments to Bring Me the Horizon, yeah, probably that too. Mixing the past and the present into an undeniably catchy mix of rock that should be plastered all over your local rock station and streaming playlists. The production is super polished and squeaky clean, and again, that songwriting is tailor-made for the modern day rock crowd. You can't be metal all the time. Give True North a listen if you have any interest in the past and present 21st century rock scene. You might be pleasantly won over. And finally, for brand new stuff out today, well, technically this one came out this past Sunday, but come on, it's still the same week, I think it still counts, is the 5th album from Volk with 5, or V, depending on your pronunciation. This is the 5th album in 5 years from this mellow black band from the Netherlands, and it's one of the finest examples of the genre I've heard in 2025. It feels like I just talked about this band, and that is because I did talk about them last year with their album 4. It's awesome to see them come back and write what is easily their best album to date, bar none. And also their vocalist, Yora K, is also the vocalist of the band Terziel, which I covered earlier this year, so needless to say, it's great seeing this duo keeping to be so busy and putting out such great music. But with 5, this is some of the best I've heard in the mellow black genre in a very long time. The production is simply perfect for the style, the songwriting couldn't be more inspired. I can only say so many great things about this album where you just need to hear it for yourself and not let me spoil any of it for you. If you need your mellow black in the best possible light, or darkness depending on your mood, you need to check out Volk. Seriously, you'll be doing yourself a favor. Sorry for that previous faux pas, this is the final album that I'll be covering for brand new albums out today. It is Wolves at the Gate with Wasteland, a band that I've heard so much about for a long time, but never actually checked them out until now, and I'm pleasantly surprised by what I'm hearing. Hearing a great mix of metalcore, modern metal, post-hardcore, and other elements to create a sound that hits hard, but it's also very catchy at the same time. Finding that balance to be accessible to everyone, no matter how heavy or poppy your rock and metal tastes are, is a tough thing to achieve, but this band pulls it off. I've also noticed this band is unabashedly Christian, which I don't hold against them at all. I listen to as much Behemoth as I do Neil Morse as I do Orphanland. It's the music that matters to me, with obvious exceptions that I shouldn't have to explain. I can hear bands like Memphis Mayfire, Savage Hands, and Anna's OK all over this one, and I find that to be such a refreshing change of pace for my musical palette. It just feels really nice to let this one play out and hear that style of 2010s metalcore play out and updated in 2025. If that is your bag, you should give this one a proper listen and see if it's for you. I understand why it's not for everyone, but I dig it, and you might too. And now for everything that I missed along the way, starting off with the band Balhel with The Way of Our Life. Balhel's debut album is such a fantastic display of power and speed metal done with such an authentic and nostalgic twist. The production is a bit raw for the style, it kind of reminds me of the late 80s, early 90s style of power and speed metal, but they make it work to their advantage, and the songwriting feels just like this grand mix of X-Japan meets Freedom Call. It's a fun album experience from start to finish, and it hits so many tropes that I love about these genres. Speedy, melodic, and if I could speak English, this would be really fun to sing along to. 10 songs and almost 47 minutes of that special kind of power metal that just makes you smile from ear to ear. If I can't sell it with those words, nothing I say will. Just give this one a spin and enjoy. Next, we have Bent by Sorrow with Sakura. I was really blown away with this one. This Greek band's debut album, and 4th release overall, shows a band that has written some of the strongest material in this style that I've heard all year, of that alternative metal, groove metal, post-metal sound. It feels as mighty as Mutiny Within's self-titled album, which all came out all the way back in 2009, 2010. Wow, I can't believe it's been that long. With the songwriting and vocal performances to go along with that, but you just kind of remove some of the proggier elements for a band like Gojira, and you have a winning combination. Yeah, that's really a great way to describe this. Gojira meets Mutiny Within's first album. This is also such a sophisticated album throughout the entire album, and it just soothes the soul in a way that just feels right. It's just catchy enough for the alternative and hard rock crowd, just heavy enough for the more groove metal, almost metalcore sound, with just the faintest elements of prog, and you have a band that will go far if the right people hear it. If this sounds like something you would dig, believe me, you will. Give this one a proper listen and see what Bent by Sorrow can accomplish. It's incredible work. Next up, we have Conan with Violence Dimension. Sadly, I didn't get the promo for this one, and I just found out that this album was released, and I'm way behind on it, but I am glad that I am covering it now. The 6th album from this ultra-heavy band is hitting all the right notes of the style of doom that I love in this sludgy style. It gets that right mix of sludge into their doom, and it mixes it all together to create this winning formula that they've been crafting for 13 years now. While no two Conan albums are dramatically subtly different from each other, when you do listen to them, you can hear the progression on each one. Here, you can hear more tempo variations, style change-ups, and this overall sense of glory? Yeah, glory. This feels like the kind of album that you put on to help motivate you. Maybe get more of a sense when you hear the lyrics on this one, especially for this style. But this is an album that is determined to help you slay all the demons of your life, both the ones in front of you and the ones within yourself. I can't think of anyone who doesn't need that kind of motivation in 2025. Obvious noted exceptions. And when I put it on, it just makes all the sense in the world to me to try to destroy the challenges that are ahead of me and crush everything in my path that's holding me down. Conan continues to refine and improve on every album. This is such an excellent example of what sludgy doom can and should be. What a great release. Here we have Cougar Toy Boy with Cougar Business. This is just a fun throwback to that late 70s through early 90s glam rock scene, just done in 2025. I hear everything from Sweet to Warren to Faster Pussycat and others in this perfect, earnest tribute to the genre, both tongue-in-cheek and, again, fully earnest. The production is a bit raw than you would expect, kind of like that early day Dokken albums. The songwriting is exactly what you'd expect, from high-energy tracks to slower numbers to the stripper anthems that you would expect. All you need to do is hear a song like I've Got a Feeling, and you know 100% what this band is all about. Done to sturdy fun and debauchery style. And when it comes to that, what else could you possibly want? This is glam rock of 2025, and probably the most best tribute to it all that's gonna happen here. This is how it's done with Cougar Toy Boy. Here we have Destruction of Orion with States of Horror, the sophomore album from this Bulgarian project by Tahina Spazova. I hope I pronounced your name right, I apologize if I didn't. Doing everything in this band is already showing the promise and progression of what her debut album was that just came out last year, but just even more improved. While covering that album last year, I noticed I love her style of funeral doom, and how it just fills this void that I needed in my life, that style of funeral doom. States of Horror takes all of that and just refines it and perfects it in this style that creates even more of an excellent blend of funeral doom with just the right amount of sorrow, dread, and oddly optimism that can only be explained if you listen to the style of music and understand the catharsis of it all. The production is very raw, but you hear every instrument as it should be, and every note is simply devastating. When you get into the lyrical content of it all, oof, this is a tearjerker. This is really what it feels like to have so much self-hatred, depression, and pure unadulterated despair. This perfectly describes funeral doom in a nutshell. It's not the type of music that you put on and feel sad at a funeral. It feels like you're dying in all aspects of life. You're losing what you enjoy in life, the heartache that comes from continuing to live by losing eventually everything in some way, shape, or form, and the pain and anguish that comes with it all. That is not to say that you need to give up on life, not at all. That is saying that it feels really nice to hear a style of music that you can relate to if you're feeling this much pain, and that's the catharsis of it all. Again, this won't be for everyone, and I completely understand why some people would be turned off from listening to this style of music, especially if you want something that's a little more optimistic, or maybe you're just into happy party music. But this is so much deeper than a lot of bands could ever go for, and you can really feel her pain here, and it is so very, very relatable. If you need a good cry, if you need some good catharsis, or you simply just love the doom and gloom that comes from funeral doom, give Destruction of Orion your proper attention. It is one of the most sadly relatable albums of 2025, and it just might make you feel seen as well. Next we have Firmament with A New World, If You Can Take It. In what feels like a true transformation for the band, brothers Brandon and Eric Carbinia have gone through the ringer when it comes to making Firmament a band with true staying power. Returning as a pure duo, the band is here for their sophomore album, and it feels like such a dark rejuvenation that the band truly needed. This band hits so many elements I love in their sound. I've seen them described as post-metalcore, and that feels like such an apt description for the band. Metalcore elements mixed in with this post-hardcore and post-metal overlay, and it still hits a lot of modern progressive metal elements as well that makes everything continue to feel fresh and inspired. If you ever heard of a band that I've been touting for years called Head with Wings, this is a perfect pairing for this band, and that would be an incredible show to see sometime. The production is punchy and it hits in all the right ways, and the songwriting feels like it's hitting this level of purging that really needed to get out of their system in a healthy way. I hope the band is feeling the effects of that purge now, but that doesn't mean that I want them to turn into a pop band on the next album or anything, though I'm sure they could pull that off. This is just the perfect balance of heavy, catchy, emotional, all rolled into one, and it hits more and more on repeated listens. Give this one a shot if you're feeling adventurous. It's more than worth the trip. Next, we have Florian Grey with Beautiful Nightmares. What a wonderfully apt album title. The fourth album from this German goth band is the band that anyone who grew up in the late 90s, mid 2000s goth rock, gothic metal scene has been wanting for years and years. While this is my first foray into the band, they have been perfecting their own vision of the sound for 10 years now, and it's an incredible thing to see. It hits everything that you love about the genre, and adds just the right amount of their own influences to make them stand out from the rest, and create this dark, whimsical, and very captivating gothic landscape. Every song is ridiculously catchy, and the production behind it all couldn't be more appropriate. If you love him, Lacrimas Profunde, The Latter Day Sentenced, and Poison Black, or even bands like To Die For, you need Florian Grey. Here we have Panzer Ballet with what I hope I'll be pronouncing right, Ubercode Ouvre. I hope I got that right. 7 albums into this off-the-wall jazz metal band, and they continue to delight and confuse listeners. While I'm a month behind on this one, I am glad I'm getting to it now, as this hits the craving that I've been looking for in this style of music ever since I first discovered Panzer Ballet so many years ago. They are truly the metal embodiment of Zappa's instrumental work, be it their own original work, taking on legendary classical pieces, covering everything from their own interpretations of Zappa to ABBA to The Simpsons, and everything else under the sun. Panzer Ballet is the definition of making the music that you want to make, and nothing will ever steer them from that. On this album, they continue to innovate with their own songs, also covering Beethoven, Meshuggah, and Planet X, and other bonkers moment that is just so hard to wrap your mind around, yet it all makes sense in context. This is in no way for everyone, and you'll find your own definition of this band from the most innovative and inspired band to ever be to the most pretentious. Oddly enough, all of that fits, but above all, they're a musician's band, and I will always love them for that. If you dare, go check out Panzer Ballet. Next up, we have Pelican with Flickering Resonance. Pelican returns with their 7th album and their first since 2019, and they have been so sorely missed in that time. Arguably my favorite instrumental post-metal, post-rock band, Pelican have found a way of hitting those heavy riffs with such heavy emotions every single time, without ever saying a word, and they pull it off with such ease, or at least they make it sound like it's done with such ease. This is such a cathartic album for the genre that has desperately needed the likes of Pelican for 8 years now, and having them back in top form, from the phenomenal production to the gripping songwriting to the overall atmosphere that only they can achieve. I can't say enough great things about this one. It's an absolute pleasure to listen to it time and time again. If you need an introduction into the genre, I can't recommend Pelican enough to be able to start off your journey. Simply put this on, close your eyes, and drift away from the tones that they present. This is how you do the genre right. Thank you for coming back. I know you never left, but we needed you, and we needed new music in that time, so I truly appreciate some new music from you guys. And finally, for brand new albums for Out Today and What I Missed, I have Sylvanshine with The Offering. Wow, one of the shining examples of how to do the post-black, black gaze genre done with justice. The debut album from this Romanian band is everything that I love about black gaze and post-black, with vocals that couldn't be more appropriate. Instead of the black metal shrieks that you tend to hear in this genre, they are closer to that mid-range, heavy style that's almost death metal, and that helps the band set themselves apart from others in the genre. I'm not sure who did the artwork, but everything else on this album is done by Ian Uric, which I think is how you pronounce it, and it sounds like a full band that has been playing for over a decade. The production is done with that right kind of raw, but still emotionally driven. The songwriting is completely from the heart, and it hits in a way that I simply was not expecting. And again, those vocals might be the true selling point of the album. This is a contender for Black Gaze Post-Black Album of the Year, and I mean that in every sense of the phrase. This is how you do the genre your own way and truly make it your own. If you don't believe me, just put this one on for yourself. I think you're going to be won over if you enjoy the genre. And there you go, folks, another 20 albums done and 470 albums that I've covered so far in 2025. Made some faux pas over the last few weeks, got the numbers wrong, but I got them right now. And not only do they spell disaster for me, but it is indeed 470 albums that I've covered so far in 2025. So what do you think? Did I pick out some good albums, pick out some bad ones? Anything that you want to check out? Anything that you have checked out? Anything you're going to steer clear of? Anything that I missed? Please let me know in the comments down below. And make sure to like, comment, share share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. As of recording, I'm almost at 1,600 subscribers. That's pretty freaking cool. Next video up that's of the Out Today and What I Missed series will be every album that I covered in May 2025. So it'll be all 100 albums that I've covered in May 2025. But make sure to come back next week as we do Out Today and What I Missed for June 6th, 2025. I simply can't believe that we're almost halfway through the year already. But until then, for the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel, this is Josh Runquist saying, embrace the skillet.